Hello, hello. Thank you so much. My name is Gabrielle Deculus, and I'm really excited to talk to you about how your brand needs to have one sound. And I'm not just talking about, can we go back one? Sorry. And I'm not just talking about your brand colors. I'm not talking about your consistency on Instagram. We're going to get really deep in regards to this specific method. But before we go there, I want to tell you why I can even talk about this topic. A little bit about me. I own a marketing company called St. Josephine, where we do marketing for social good. So we cover everything from campaigns, strategy, production, just you name it, branding. And within that, we have created a festival in New Orleans called the Nola Zydeco Fest. You may have seen or heard about it, and Foundation. And so I've worked in different aspects of marketing. I've worked in different industries, and also created Business Rules for Women, which is a brand dedicated for women in business. Because I was at a point when I lived back in Houston, I'd say 2015-ish, where I would come home after working with a client every day, or one day, and had a really great day, and realized I didn't have much of a community. And so Business Rules for Women was born out of that. So feel free to check us out and see what our brands are doing. So a little bit more about me. I am a Baton Rouge native, okay? I'm not here to shade nothing about Baton Rouge, but I'm a worldwide citizen, okay? So you can catch me on a plane, you can catch me in Africa, you can catch me in Houston, you can catch me all over, because I believe that also is what makes creatives, especially marketers, really great. You have to go experience things and see what other people are doing. I know Calvin isn't in here just yet, but I want to thank Calvin Mills and Nexus and the whole Nexus team. Really happy to be a part of this and see this come to fruition. So we can go to the next slide now. So what is the omni-channel approach? We're going to hold it right here. All right, I know y'all just stood up and stretched, but guess what? I have an activity, so I need everybody to stand up. Before we answer this question, I want to take you through an activity to help you quickly understand what we're talking about today. And then we're going to reverse engineer a bit and talk about how you can do this for yourself. All right, so eyewear. If you currently wear glasses, subscription glasses, non-subscription glasses, contacts, I would like for you to remain standing. But if you have eagle eye vision, you can see real good, you can have a seat. Okay, we only had about 5 people sit down. This is real interesting. All right, so of everyone who falls into this category, how many of you can just raise your hand, how many of you purchase your frames or glasses or contacts online? Okay, more than I expected. Okay, so it looks like probably about 60% of the people in the room do that. How many of us actually go into the doctor and the doctor says, hey, this is what you need before you order anything, or you go to a doctor-related office to get it? Okay, so I see some overlay. This is good, this is good. How many of you within those experiences have access to a loyalty program? Okay. How many of you receive recommendations based off the size of your face and your favorite color? Okay. Interesting enough, this approach that we're about to talk about is going to discuss how you can have all of that, and how your brand or brands like it that sell retail items can be offering that well-rounded approach where you can have that in-person connection, you can have that digital connection, you can have your data used to best optimize your experience with that brand. So that's what the omni-channel approach is about today. We're going to discuss that strategy and how in different industries you can implement that so your customer and your consumer is having that all-encompassing, all-inclusive approach. And you can have a seat. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the omni-channel approach is an all-inclusive or all-inclusive, all-encompassing or all-inclusive experience for your consumer, okay? Like I said, it's a sales and marketing method designed to deliver a seamless, consistent customer experience across all touch points. Who can tell me what a touch point is? Email, social media, chat. I love chat now. The chat, big conversions on chat. Commenting, liking, okay. Telephone, old school, but still works. How many of y'all like to call customer service whenever you're just sick of the chat box? Okay. You're like, you know what? Can I just talk to somebody? So we're going to talk about how all these channels that you use to sell your products, how it needs to be combined with all the touch points that everyday humans need and that we do anyway. All right. Next slide, please. So, why is this important in today's business and marketing strategies? We're going to answer that question in just a moment. And how can your business benefit from this approach? And I want to bring your attention to this, very basic graphic here, but powerful graphic, because this is not how always business has operated, right? We used to have it where QVC, you had to call in. That is not inclusive. That is a single channel approach, right? Perhaps we had, another business out there where you could use they had multi-channels, but it wasn't inclusive and was not considering you as the consumer. So the omni-channel approach is doing that. Next slide, please. So this is important because we have access to game-changing touch points every day. We talked about social media. We talked about email. We talked about, I'm just going to add to it, apps, phone calls, chat box, data. I mean, that data is really what's going to feed these things now with this approach. And ultimately, this is important because when you give your consumer a better experience, they're going to spend more money with you. How many of you, well, I'm going to get there in a minute. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so here's some of the benefits, right? So we talked about enhanced customer experience and engagement. How about more upselling and cross-selling? When you know what your consumer likes and you're applying that data, you're able to sell them things that they might just like. How many times do y'all log into a website that you use and they say, we thought you might like this? You're right. I might like it. And 9 times out of 10, I'm at least click it and see if I like it. Increased profits. Price flexibility. When you sell stuff online, I don't know if you noticed this, but let's just talk about Uber Eats. You get on Uber Eats and order a burger, it's probably $2 more than if you went into that restaurant. Do y'all pay attention to that? But because of the convenience and the experience, you're like, take my $2, please. Take it. All right? My time's worth a little bit more than that, and I need it now, okay? Also, improve brand reputation. Whenever you have a great experience with a company, you tell other people, you write reviews about it, you do TikToks about it, you do whatever, and that helps them build that trust. That's a part of the omni-channel approach. Lastly, I'll just say increase customer loyalty. How many of you swear by certain brands? Like swear by them, like, listen, if we're not going here, if they don't have this brand, I'm not buying it. That's a real thing, and that's what you want out of your customer. Next slide, please. So I want to give y'all some examples, okay? So y'all probably noticed, I don't know if you have or not, but I really like these. I have on these Nike Air sandals. I bought them a couple years ago, and listen, they sold out. I wear a size 10. It's hard to get a size 10. But anyway, I bought these on the Nike app. And I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for them to release them again. That's how much I wore the last ones. I can't wear them in public, okay? I cannot. Go to the next slide, please. And I actually took a screenshot of my experience with Nike. I actually bought this a couple years ago. A couple weeks ago, and it just came in like this last week. So I thought it was great to tell you about my experience with probably the company that's doing it best when it comes to retail. And all the things that we're going to talk about. So I opened up my Nike app the other day and I saw that the sandals were available again. And not only was it in my size, but they also had another color. I bought the other color too. Okay. The reason being is because I regretted last time not getting a second pair, and I just had a great experience with the shoe. And so to talk about how Nike is implementing this, they're investing heavily in their platforms, their digital platforms. How many of you have a Nike app on your phone? Any kind of Nike app, Nike Run, Nike just buy stuff on Nike. There's a bunch of them. I think I named like 5 yesterday when I was practicing, but I don't remember. But there's a lot. There's a lot of them, and it's because they're linking all of this stuff together, and they're learning a lot about you. And then learning a lot about you, especially when you have a membership, right? So now you got a number assigned to you. And they know what colors you like, what activities, what your preferences are, all of these things. And then because of that, they can now offer you personalized content, exclusive products and promotions, like my sandals, and receive, different recommendations based off of what they've learned about you. Next slide. And they also leverage social media a lot, right? You see them talk about people who are relevant in fashion, in sports, etc. Somebody that's associated with Nike will connect with you. That's how diverse their campaigns are. That's how inclusive, their content is. So of course I have Virgil up there, who's like, one of the game-changing, fashion and creative legends. You know what I'm saying? And they did a whole series. Now, if people didn't like Nike before, but they like Virgil, they're definitely going to they're going to gravitate to this, right? So they utilize not just big influencers like that, but everyday influencers like me and you. People who wear things and tag them. They may repost you, right? That's how they're reaching. That's how they're using the omni approach to not just hit you on the digital side, but get you on the physical side. Not to mention, they create all this content, cool stuff that's like groundbreaking campaigns. Who remembers the equity campaign they did a couple years ago? During like All-Star, I think it was All-Star. It was everywhere in New Orleans, right? They had it on shirts, you can buy it online, et cetera, et cetera. They know how to connect with people. Next slide, please. So we can't also forget the fact that they have a store, right? So that's where they bring that physical aspect in. So not only are they learning you on the digital side, upselling you, getting you to spend more money, getting you to go run, help you count your calories, doing all of these things, but they're also making it easy for you to return it if you don't like it in their store where there's more options, right? And that's really, in my opinion, the blueprint today for a retail company. And sure, you don't even have to have Nike money to do this. A lot of these tools are available to you in the everyday softwares that you are currently using for your company. There's multiple solutions in it. If you're using an email marketing software, guaranteed they have other things like automation, and they collect your data. You can plug in your pixels from your Facebook ads, etc. I don't get too nerdy on y'all, but it's just so much that you can get right now in mind for yourself and use that in your marketing tactics. All right. So yeah, with that being said, Nike is a great example. Seamless experiences, very consistent with the quality, and there's so many people who are loyal to them, just like me. Next slide. All right, so now we're gonna get a little nerdy. So, do I have any creatives in the room? Okay, hey y'all. So Adobe is an OG in the creative world, right? I remember using Adobe, and Adobe, I had to put the CD in. That's how long ago I was using Adobe, okay? And learning off of YouTube. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. I mean, you can easily simplify your life and pivot to Canva, but if you are true to the creative game, you are still using Adobe, okay? And the cool thing about Adobe is, because now we're talking about a software, we're not talking about tangible items and just content. We're talking about the people who create these things like shoes, the people who create, your best graphics, motion graphics, etc. Okay, so Adobe went from just being on a driver or a CD disk to now having a cloud, right? Mine was blown. What? I don't have to download all this stuff anymore. I could just use what I need, and I can pay for a subscription instead of paying, $1,000 for the suite or whatever it is, which I would never pay. I would forever use a student discount. Just kidding. Uh, but now it's so affordable. It's so affordable and efficient for you to have access to these creative softwares that you may not even need all of them all the time. So you can save RAM on your computer. Hello. So let's talk about how Adobe has brought themselves into the physical. Because for a while, the creatives were the physical. The things we created were the tangible or intangible cool things that we put out into the world. But now Adobe actually has an in-person event where you can show up with your creative stuff or not, with your laptops, and experience all of their software. Instead of talking to that chat box, you can talk to someone in person, and they'll teach you and, take you through different classes and stuff like that, which is dope. We're talking about a tech company turned physical, like very important. That's that omni approach again. So of course, like everyone else, they're taking that data, mining that data, they're evaluating the analytics, they're looking at your preferences and your routines, and now they can offer you stuff that you actually need. So I don't have to go to YouTube all the time. They're becoming the resource that we need. And believe me, there's always something new to learn on their programs. So yeah, they track our data. They then, after they collect our data, analyze the data, then they start reaching out to us and touching us and hitting us and all those touch points that we've been talking about. It just makes our life easier. And when people make your life easier, you're like, take my money. Sure, I haven't used Adobe in 6 months, but I'm still paying the subscription, So it's definitely a win from a company, from a brand point of view. Next slide, please. So just like Nike, clearly they're investing in their infrastructure, so you can't get around scaling to a profitable, influential, well-experienced, or people-centered company, consumer-centered company, if you don't invest in it. And you will see after implementing and doing the things consistently that the money is there, and all the things will start to, I'm not gonna say even out, but straighten out, where you see where your investment is and you see where your profits are from making that investment. Another cool thing that Adobe is doing, back to that chat box, that AI chat, where they already know so much about you that whenever you're asking questions, they're not asking you the same questions over again. Press 1 if you want to do this. Say yes if you want to do that. They're kind of predicting what you need, which saves us time as creatives, because we really should be spending more time creating than trying to troubleshoot something. All right, next slide, please. So let's talk about some strategies, things that you can implement based off what we're learning from some of these successful folks, right? Because we'll never be big companies if we don't do what the big companies do, and you can do it on your level. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, I see the bullets are just kind of off a little bit. Okay, so strategies here. So I talked about physical products that was connecting with the digital side. Then I talked about the digital side that was connecting with the physical side. So how many of you have a business that touches on the physical side? Higher, I can't see. All right, 1, 2. Okay, good. What about just digital? All right. So who on the physical side is not really activating people on the digital side as much as you know that you should be? Because we just went through all these touch points, right? And what about the opposite? Those who are on the digital side who are avoiding people. That is a thing. I see you. I find myself hiding too sometimes until I'm ready to launch, baby. And when it's time to launch, I'm outside. Okay? So we have to do that. That has to be a part of your strategy. If you are not figuring out how to have some human interaction somewhere, you are losing ground because somebody else is doing it. Somebody else gets it. Um, Personalization of customer experience. This is actually not that hard. You know, there's some really great software out there that will, at minimum, help you say, "Good evening, Gabrielle," right? At minimum. So make sure that when people log into your website or they come over to your store, they're able to check in, be seen, and feel like they're a part of what it is that you're offering, like what you're offering is for them, you know, like you know what they need. All right. So we talked about using of the data analytics and customer insights, but listen, that's not for everybody. Not everybody gets it. Not everybody can understand what the data is telling you, you know. So a strategy is either learn more about it for yourself if that's where you are, or perhaps seek out someone who can help you digest what you've been learning about your customers. And believe me, if you are selling something, you know a lot about them. If you're buying clothes from someone, if you're buying clothes from Fashion Nova know my style too. Fashion Nova be sending me emails, and I'm like, golly, Fashion Nova. But I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. And then, like, Fashion Nova knows when ball season is around the corner because sometimes you got to buy a few, and they have, you know, they have nice dresses. Investment in technology and infrastructure. So again, there's no way around this. You got to spend the coin. You got to spend the coin if you want to take your company to the next level. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So challenges. So there's always some challenges here. There's always some challenges. And next slide, please. One of the biggest ones is organizational and cultural barriers. Because different people have different comfort levels when it comes to all the things that we've talked about today, whether it's the tech savvy side or if it's the interaction and know what to say to people in person side. You know, there's training that can be done, but then there's also you getting clear on what it is that you actually need. And if people aren't fulfilling what you need, you might need to switch it up. The strategy of your team. Like, who do you really need there that's going to help you make more money, right? And I kind of have a rule of thumb because I've been in business for a while. You know, anyone I add on to my team, there's something that you're doing that's involving us reaching more people or making more money. If that's not, that's like always your second job, right, as a marketer. So just throwing that out there. Data privacy and security concerns. So obviously, if you're collecting all these people's information, you have to have a way that you are protecting it. How many times have y'all seen, news about data breaches and, whoo, child, it's happened to me. Somebody's got my information before, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't care about my whatever account, but I guess I need to go change all my passwords. But needless to say, whoever stole it, they still have all this information about you and they can market to you. Outside, I mean, sure, there's like the more like criminal-esque things that could occur, like fraud. But ultimately, I think that they just want your data. It's like black market data, if you think about it. It's like a cheat code, but eventually it dries out because people will unsubscribe from you. They don't know you. Anybody else subscribe from random emails that you get? Like, how did this get here? I don't remember subscribing to John Smith's newsletter. It's weird. Then we got high cost and complexity of implementation. That's going to be a challenge, but that goes back to that organizational strategy. That goes back to having the right people on your team, so they're actually, giving you proper solutions for the things that you need, suggesting the right things that you actually need. You know, there's a lot of softwares that offer a ton of things, but who do you know that can actually operate it? Don't buy none. You don't know anybody who can operate it because you're going to spend more time trying to learn how to operate it than launching. And as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, you need to be focused on other things, right? Obviously, you need to learn along the way, but we gotta let go. We gotta delegate, and check those references. Okay. Next slide. All right. So with that being said, I think there's some key takeaways here. Does anybody have any key takeaways they can share with me based off of what we talked about today? Like for you and your business? Sure. And the cool thing about funnels is it could be, you can touch them at different places, you know? All the channels that you touch your clients through, you can reach them at. It doesn't have to all be email. That's why we got to grab those softwares, those solutions that offer a plethora of, like a suite of services that can all sync together and like reach them in different times and ways and all of that. So thank you. So honestly, a lot of work that I do, it's different, like, because all my clients are different, their needs are different. But if I was speaking from, like, what kind of business do you have? Okay. Okay. So, so Sam Card wouldn't be a great option for you, for example, right? You'd probably want an interface that allows people to create profiles where they can input information, um, where they have to go into this interface to register for things, submit things to you guys. So you probably would have to build something, but it's highly likely that there is a software out there. I'm sure there is actually, like a CRM, right? That has a nice like user experience. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I think that that type of platform would work best for y'all, especially if there's multiple ways that you can reach them and share information regularly. So yeah, I think that and of course send out communications from there too. Maybe Salesforce. Well, Salesforce doesn't have but Salesforce is a great tool to use for the omni-channel approach as well. They have a lot of literature online about this. Yep. Any other key takeaways? Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. Agreed. But you know, that also means that's why it's important to build community around you, right? So the things that you don't do so well, those folks don't mind showing up for you, participating, and also having some value in what it is that you're creating. So you could be the tech brain, the design brain, you know, and maybe a little introverted. That's okay. And you eventually become more selectively social, like more social, as you put yourself in those spaces. But like, link up with some people. You don't have to do stuff by yourself. Okay. Any other key takeaways in the room? Okay. So I want you to take away this, you know, we can't allow these large companies to put small companies out of business. Okay? For example, my sister right now is working for Emerson Group. I don't know if you have heard of Emerson Group, but it's a very it's a marketing firm that focuses a lot on direct fulfillment and marketing, like on Amazon for like 30 brands. Like, they manage brands, digital marketing and sales. And one thing that she told me, I was, you know, she's about 10 years younger than me, so I would just be listening, you know, see what she said, because we're both in marketing. Hey. And so I'm just like, okay, Bree is going to Harvard. They're talking about these different topics. And what Bree said was, You know, in Harvard, they're predicting that all these big box companies are going to put most of our small businesses out, and there's only going to be like 5 places where we buy from in the future, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just listening, like, One thing they're not talking to y'all about is that there's approaches that these companies are using that small businesses can use too. So when you do that and people have an opportunity to experience you and enjoy you, they're going to give you their money over and over and over again. So I want y'all to not look at this just as like, oh, Adobe did this and Nike did that. Like, your company can do this as well. It's very doable. Most of us already have several of these channels connected and communicating. We just got to be more consistent about it. One thing I wanted to share too, and I think I skipped this earlier, is that I read something about like companies that apply this method in person. They see a 4% increase in profits, and online they see a 10% increase in profits. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's worth a marketing budget line. You know, um, on top of what they already spend with you, they're going to spend more. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So I'd also just like to say a call to action is like, don't reinvent the wheel. I know sometimes we just be rolling, thinking that what we're doing is fine, and you might just be doing fine. You might be just paying the bills and living comfortably, but the thing in between what you have now and what you could have is learning from these methods that have been in place for people who actually have accomplished these things already. So I don't want to sound redundant, but it's definitely a thing. Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. You know, I think that based off what you're doing already, you should know, again, going back to that, you should know a good bit about your audience, right? You know that you send out a monthly newsletter. That's not enough, for example. That's not enough. Not if you're trying to sell something. I mean, if you're just trying to, and once a month is good for just a newsletter for just like news that has no other goal. But that's not where we're at. We're trying to convert, right? And so I think that you got to look at the frequency and the open rates of what you currently get, whether it's text, whether it's email, and say, okay, 80% of this list is not opening up these emails. But in their profile that I have of them in my CRM, I also have their I also have their phone number. So perhaps this segment of this subscription group, really I need to be communicating to them with text and see how that works, right? And then from there, you're like, okay, these are my direct lines of contact. Let's talk about the more communal areas, social areas like Instagram or Facebook. All right, I post something 4 times a week right now. All right, cool. Over the last 90 days, I've had X amount of interactions. I've reached 1,000 accounts. Men, women, you get that, right? Based off of that information, you need to say, okay, how do I utilize my email list to target these same people on Facebook, which is a thing, right? Facebook pixels. And this is not an ad conversation, but I'm trying to take you there, right? Where how you take certain data to help you make those types of decisions. You know, if you have low engagement on Facebook or Instagram and you want more, grab that email list and make sure that the stuff that you're posting on social media is actually going to the people who are subscribed to you. You can do that too. Even if they don't follow you on Facebook or Instagram and you have their email address, you can still reach them. So you just got to look at, you got to lay it all out and say, I've been doing a lot of work. I done sold a lot of stuff, or maybe not so much. But what is the data that I have so I can sell more to those people and give them this omni experience, so they can go and tell more people about it, so they can brag about it, so they can send me recommendations, because you also want them to send you feedback and help you develop what you need to do next. And don't be afraid to survey your customers, because I be surveying my people a lot. Like, oh, here come another survey, but we're doing a giveaway. But help your girl out, right? So do your own research, evaluate what you do have, and then make some decisions from there. And the future, the future is here. The future is present. Amazon is at Cortana Mall, like the whole mall, right? So they've already taken over. They're showing us what we need to do. Although your goal shouldn't be to compete with an Amazon, you should always strive to be an Amazon. And that's all I have. Thank you.